Hello, this is Alan, welcoming you to the 2050th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper. Dateline 26th of May 2016. The readers this week are Sonia, Jeanne, Roz and myself, with Ian on the controls. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed of course by Pat Pree, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breuer, and is performed as ever by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The event's information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include Poorest warning over plans to cut free prescriptions, the next cuts will be deeper, nurse gets an award for teaching expertise, residents fear deadly consequence of traffic. First, the sunrise and sunset times for tomorrow, which is the 27th of May. They are 0453 for sunrise and 2103 for sunset. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578. She, of course, is your listener's representative, and she'll be pleased to help you. Now, Sonia will read the first item of our local news.
The poorest and most vulnerable people will be hit hard by plans to slash free prescriptions for over-the-counter medicines, says the head of the Enfield Over 50s Forum. Enfield health bosses have written to GPs urging them to stop issuing free prescriptions for easily bought medicines, including paracetamol, hay fever tablets, eye drops and Gaviscon. The controversial letter from the Enfield NHS Clinical Commissioning Group has sparked anger among members of the Over 50s Forum. Forum President Monty Meth, 90, said, "I am very worried about this, not for myself, but for the poorest and most vulnerable people who will be hit by this." Enfield residents are now rated as living in the 12th most deprived of London boroughs, and this attempt by the CCG to reduce its medicines bill will mainly hurt people on income support, the unemployed on job seekers allowance, the hundreds, if not thousands, of elderly local people receiving pension credit, and families with children under 16. The letter, seen by the Forum, has been sent to GPs at all 49 surgeries in the borough. Mr. Meth added, "Enfield CCG constantly says it wants to involve patients and the public at all levels. But this key policy change has been introduced without any consultation with the patient participation groups attached to many surgeries. The long list of medicines which the CCG says should now be bought by patients include paracetamol, which they say is about 4 times more expensive on prescription, hay fever remedies costing between £6 and £10, eye drops and ointments costing £2 to £8, cough and cold remedies, and the indigestion remedy Gaviscon, priced according to size between £4 and £10. A spokesman for the CCG said the move was to cut costs. He said, "The CCG currently spends more than £1 million a year on medicines that are readily available to buy from local pharmacies, shops or supermarkets, and which are often only required short-term for minor ailments. We have reviewed prescribing in Enfield and have agreed a list of medicines which can easily be purchased cheaply over the counter. These medicines are usually prescribed for minor or short-term health problems. Only, and where this is not the case, they may continue to be prescribed. Faced with ever-increasing levels of demand and rapidly rising medicines costs, it is vital that we use the NHS resources as effectively as possible in order to provide the best quality of care for all Enfield patients.
Enfield Council's new Cabinet Member for Finance has issued a stark warning over potential further funding cuts. Dino Lemonides has warned that dark times may be on the horizon as the government is planning to impose further budget reductions, forcing the authority to rely on local business rates for the bulk of its money. Although officers at the council say the local authority is on track to hit savings targets for 2016-17, another £56 million will have to be shaved from the council's budget by 2020. That year, the council is expecting funding from central government to shrink again, with an across-the-board £3.5 billion cut to public spending, which council bosses fear will see their grants reduced to virtually nothing. Mr Lemonides said that the £56 million in cuts, which the council has to make for 2020, has left officers facing a dilemma. The £56 million we need to find by 2019-20 is more than we currently spend annually on cleaning the streets, collecting the bins and lighting our streets, so we are absolutely committed to finding new and innovative ways of providing services to minimise the cost burden on residents, said Mr Lemonides. However, if councils are required to contribute to the government's £3.5 billion reduction, we could face the spectre of having to make cuts as deep as £64 million by 2019-20. This will have a huge impact on the vulnerable and is causing us huge concerns. He fears that Enfield's growing population, coupled with the budget cuts, could hit the most vulnerable members of society hard. Mr Lemonides was elected as the Cabinet Member for Finance last month, replacing Andrew Stafford. However, opposition councillors have hit out at the council, accusing them of squandering taxpayers' money. Ertan Hura, the Tory group's finance spokesman, said that council bosses only have themselves to blame if coffers run dry by 2020. He added, as far back as May 2010, the Conservative group warned the incoming Labour administration not to squander the £70 million left in reserves and take immediate efficiency and cost-cutting measures, including the cancellation of the Residents' Priority Fund. We were accused of scaremongering by the Labour group. Had they heeded our warnings, the finances of the council would be in far better shape today than they are.
A nurse has received an award for her teaching skills. Maris Gordon, who works for Barnet, Enfield and Haringey Mental Health NHS Trust as a specialist practice nurse and manager, was honoured with the City University's District Nurse Practice Teacher Prize for her work with student nurses. Edwin Soda, who nominated Miss Gordon for the prize after working with her in a placement, said, "I believe Maris deserves an award for being the most supportive, caring and encouraging individual. She made sure she was there with me throughout the whole year and has aligned all our holidays with mine to make sure she was around 100% of the time when I'm in practice." Maris has been a practice teacher for many years, and all her students, including myself, attribute their success to her support and encouragement. Miss Gordon said she was taken aback, but delighted to have won. She said, "My mother is in Jamaica and I called her especially so I could share the wonderful news with her. She was so proud. I'm delighted to have been recognised for the work I've been doing. I've been in this role for a while now, and I'm really passionate about teaching. The students we've had are bright and really motivated. Helping them succeed is really exciting. After all, they're going to be the nurses of the future. Dr. Caroline McGraw, a lecturer at the School of Health Sciences at City, applauded Miss Gordon for her hard work, and she said, "The practice teacher role is highly complex and requires skills in teaching, negotiating, supporting and assessing students. I was delighted when Edwin nominated Meris for the Practice Teacher of the Year award, and she has truly made an outstanding contribution to the development of student nurses."
Neighbours have warned daily traffic chaos on their street could have deadly consequences unless something is done. Autumn Close in Enfield, a small residential cul-de-sac near the junction of the A10 and Carterhatch Lane, is also home to two schools, Carterhatch Junior and Russet House, and Carterhatch Children's Centre. As a result, there is gridlock on the street every morning and afternoon, with cars and vans driving on pavements, blocking and damaging drives, and parking on double yellow lines. Bosses at Enfield Council said they are looking into the issue. However, Margaret Canhan, who has lived on the road for 33 years, said when residents complained to the council, the authority seemed disinterested. The 69-year-old said, "It is really, really bad. These schools have been built, but there is nowhere to park. People are parked all over the road at dropping off and picking up times. It's jammed solid. We have to go out and tell people where it is safe to turn their cars around. Coaches and cars are driving onto pavements and the council turns a blind eye. If a child was to be knocked down and killed, who will be responsible?" Mrs. Canhan said the problem has got so bad in recent years they have written to their MP, Joan Ryan, and councillors, but nothing has been done. Other neighbours have echoed Miss Canhan's concerns. Kieran, who wished only to give his first name, said he has lived on Autumn Close for 40 years and blamed a lack of forethought by the council in allowing so many schools and centres on a small street, and called for more parking spaces and stronger enforcement. He said, "It is a nightmare at 9 o'clock every day. When you can't choose when to leave your home, there is a big problem. We have no peace." Another neighbour, Lynn Melling, added, "Twice a day we can't get in or out. Why can't these children take a bus or walk? They have legs, don't they?" Council Cabinet Member for the Environment, Councillor Daniel Anderson, said greater parking enforcement would be put in place on Autumn Close, and said he wanted to meet residents to discuss their concerns. He said, "I have enormous sympathy for the residents of Autumn Close who have to put up with significant volumes of traffic along their road at school pick-up and drop-off times. This is an entirely avoidable problem caused by large numbers of parents who choose to drive their children to school when they could easily use alternative modes of transport. There is absolutely no excuse for extremely dangerous and irresponsible behaviour, such as driving a vehicle on a pavement near a primary school." Councillor Anderson added that the council was encouraging parents to consider alternative modes of transport and car sharing. Had they not thought of a parking warden? Sonia.
The flamboyant and friendly Bernadette Lapage is the new mayor of Enfield. She's the face of the borough and the ambassador for this patch of North London that she calls her true home after her Irish parents emigrated to Enfield in the 1940s. Taking tea in the mayor's parlour, she points out the few tweaks she's made to make it more her. "I've moved things around a bit, and I'm going to put up some Monet pictures. At my own expense, of course, not out of the taxpayer pocket," she jokes. I like bright, happy things that make people feel good about themselves. Positivity, that's what I'm all about. Mrs. Lepage tells the Advertiser her big ambitions as mayor are to promote the borough and bring music to people. She says, I love Enfield, but I sometimes feel we don't shout about it enough. There's so much talent here and so many good things going on, so much diversity. So one of my aims is to bring all that together. My charity has 2 elements to it, and it's all about music. I am calling it Enfield Sounds Great, and I'll be raising money for lots of music-based projects, from school choirs to orchestras, adult choirs, the Glee project, where 18 Edmonton schools go to perform on a London stage. Then the other part is taking music to older people and people with dementia, where it has been proved that music can really help. Being Irish, I have music in my DNA. There was always music when I was growing up, Irish dancing, singing, so it's part of my heritage. Music crosses all boundaries and is a common language. Before becoming a councillor in 1998, Mrs. Lepage did a French degree, met her husband Andrew, they have been married for 32 years, lived in Paris, and ran her own French school, Joie de Vivre, in Enfield. She also worked for the council as a benefits officer and had her son, Edward, 20, who goes to the Guildford School of Acting, part of the University of Surrey. Although she's a Labour councillor in Edmonton for Jubilee Ward, as mayor she promises to be apolitical and run council meetings professionally and fairly. She adds, I want to be very approachable, I like people, I am a very huggy person, and I really enjoy meeting people and socialising. When I was made mayor and the choir sang One Call Away by Charlie Puth, and the lyrics go, I'm only one call away, I'll be there to save the day, Superman got nothing on me, I'm only one call away, and that's me, one of the people.
Thousands of pounds of public money which the council has spent on a planning wrangle could exceed the £45,000 it has forked out in legal costs so far if residents mount a second High Court challenge. The residents are considering their next move in a long-standing battle with developers who want to build a 4-bedroomed house on a small patch of a garden in Walsingham Road. The site backs onto Essex Road and falls within the Enfield Town Conservation Area. Enfield Council has already had to meet a significant bill for legal costs following a judicial review of the planning application. And it could be shelling out even more if the protesters appeal against the council's latest decision, taken at a planning committee meeting last month, to give the building the green light. Richard Burndees, 47, who lives in Essex Road, said that he and others were considering taking the council to the High Court. Mr. Burndees said, We are bitterly disappointed that the plan has been given the go-ahead. We have been here before, and if necessary will take this to the courts. It's astounding that they are so short of money, they are laying off a third of their staff, but are spending all this money on one planning application. The saga of the development has been dragging on since 2010, when the developers first submitted a planning application. The initial application was rejected by the council. However, in 2014, the developers submitted a second application and were successful. Essex Road residents were so incensed by that decision, they launched a successful bid for a judicial review. And in February last year, a High Court judge upheld every aspect of the residents' grievance, ordered the council to pay all the costs of the claimant's case, and quashed the 2014 decision to grant planning permission for the development. Since then, the developers have submitted a revised proposal, which has now been approved, despite more than 70 letters of objection. An Enfield Council spokesman said, "The development involves a single house on garden land to the side of 36 Walsingham Road, part of which lies in the Enfield Town Conservation Area." Following a previous decision to grant planning permission, residents lodged a successful judicial review. A very careful analysis by officers of the application, plus robust external advice, led to a new recommendation of approval for the development. After hearing the comments of residents and considering the merits of the case, the Planning Committee agreed with officers' recommendation. The concerns of residents around the process are acknowledged by the Council, but the process has been carefully reviewed, and this should not prevent the applicant having a decision on his application.
The EU referendum has been hailed as the most important political event of the year. Britons will go to the polls on June the 23rd to decide if the country should leave or remain in the EU. But many are undecided and some are apathetic. Chris Theodoulou, who runs Emma Clare Hairdressers in Enfield Town, said he is yet to make up his mind and believes most business owners are in the same boat. He said, "We have to be very diplomatic as business owners, as if we broadcast our opinions too widely, it could offend a lot of people. But on a personal level, I am very confused about which way to vote. I can understand and even agree with both sides of the argument, but with a lack of trust among politicians, among those I know, there is a clean 50-50 split on the issue. I'm concerned about unemployment if we leave, and I'm concerned about immigration if we stay, and frankly, I don't think there has been enough unbiased evidence available to make a proper decision either way." If Mr. Theodoulou is unclear, others are of a view that not enough people care about the outcome, according to one councillor. Councillor Clive Carter, representative of Highgate Ward, said he wished to keep his personal opinion on the EU private, but many of his constituencies did not even have one. He said, "Among members of the public I speak to, many feel it is just an example of the Westminster bubble, an issue that does not affect people's lives. Looking at those involved, it appears so many of them are simply out to further their own careers, and people cannot care enough to get involved. There are many more issues people want discussed rather than the EU."
Ex-council flat leaseholders say they are planning to band together to fight crazy renovation costs. Letters were sent last year to Enfield leaseholders telling them of planned work, but with no hint of cost or time frame. The work was then revealed in February to be a £4 million work on 16 properties across the borough, with at least £20,000 in costs piled on the tenants. Enfield Council says leaseholders signed a contract agreeing to pay for any essential maintenance work needed. Recently, residents in Bicolour Road came forward, but now the 18 owners of flats in Parsonage Lane say they are unhappy with Enfield Council's plans. Julia Cousins has lived in Parsonage Lane since November 2014 with husband Ian and their 3 young girls. Both were made redundant last year and have now been asked for £22,000 to be paid back over 2 years with no interest at a cost of £900 per month. Mrs. Cousins says she has spoken to some neighbours who have lived there for over 30 years and says no major renovation work has been done until now. She said, "We have a pretty tight financial situation as it is, being first-time buyers and having both recently lost our jobs. They did say there would be some work, but no estimate was given until the bill arrived. I expected up to 10 grand, but nothing like this." Michelle Wood, age 51, says her parents, Ralph and Winnie, have lived in Parsonage Lane since 1968, when the building was first completed as council flats. Now they face losing the home. Miss Wood says residents are sending a letter to Enfield North MP Joan Ryan and are joining forces with Bicolour Road to get the council to back down. She said, "It is a highly strange method of costing. The council appear to have railroaded everyone." Council bosses said the leaseholders were made aware they would face costs for the work and have had a year's notice of this. Spokesman Andrew Golder said, "While we always seek to minimise the cost to leaseholders when works are carried out, we have a legal obligation to make sure that the properties we manage are well maintained and in a good state of repair. This benefits both leaseholders and council tenants."
An elderly couple say they were shocked when over 60 kilograms of wood were dumped on their doorstep. Chrissy and Christopher Jacob, 72 and 70 respectively, bought £1,511 worth of flooring from B&Q Enfield and asked it be delivered into their Southgate home. However, when it arrived, the delivery drivers dumped the solid wood on their driveway and refused to take it inside even when asked. Miss Jacob and her husband had to carry all the materials into their home, despite their age and Mr. Jacob suffering heart problems and having to use a pacemaker. She said, "We were shocked. B&Q say the materials have to be put to where the customer asks, but these men simply did not care. It took 2 hours in the rain for us to lug it all inside. If I had known this would happen, I would never have ordered it." We phoned them up, but the person we spoke to was very rude. He just said, "What do you want us to do?" Miss Jacob says eventually they spoke to the manager of the Enfield branch, who apologised, offered £150 compensation, and said the drivers contracted to deliver the wood would no longer work for the company. However, she says it was more about the principle than the money. She said, "We are elderly. What would have happened if we had left it? I was more than ready to pay any younger people who walked past to help us get the stuff inside. My back and knees still hurt now, and I honestly thought my husband would have a heart attack. All we wanted was it taking 2 steps inside the door." B&Q spokesperson Timothy Amui said, "We were sorry to learn that on this occasion Mr. and Mrs. Jacob did not receive the high quality of customer service we pride ourselves on. We apologised as soon as we were made aware of their complaint, and as a gesture of goodwill arranged a reimbursement, which the customer has accepted."
The councillor in charge of a £2.5 billion housing development has accused opponents of economic illiteracy after criticism of his methods. Councillor Alan Sitkin, Cabinet Member for Economic Regeneration at Enfield Council, spoke at a meeting last week where the developer for the Meridian Water housing project was selected. The council came in for criticism earlier this month after it emerged landowners were threatening to sell land earmarked for Meridian Water to a third party if their financial demands were not met. Last week, Enfield Conservatives leader Terry Neville accused the Labour Cabinet of incompetence and said a compulsory purchase order, CPO, should have been used to guarantee the land went to the council. However, in a fiery speech, Councillor Sitkin said their arguments were flawed. He said, "I'm always flabbergasted by the economic illiteracy of the Tory minority. The idea that there is only one buyer in an economy, if one of my students told me that, they would flunk. The council was never going to be the only buyer, yet the Conservatives say that would be normal, which is dangerous when we're in the middle of negotiations, it sends out the wrong message to those we are dealing with. I would ask the Conservatives to go back to high school, and I am sorry for our press that they were passed such substandard information. Councillor Sitkin said they have already acquired enough land to build 10 years' worth of housing supply, but were still seeking more in order to build the 8,000 homes in the Meridian Water Plan. He said there have been many ill-informed statements on CPOs that the council is being held to ransom, which are not true. Council bosses are set to announce the winning developers in the coming days.
A song composed by Enfield teachers encouraging children to clear up the classroom after lessons has become a hit with colleagues and parents. Chris Michael and George Papakyriakou wrote the Tidy Up Rumba together, and it has had more than 2 million hits via their YouTube channel. The two teachers joined forces as the group Musical Playground to write songs for children and have just released their second album, Are We There Yet? They met at Barnet College and started composing fun and educational music and songs together before recording them in a studio and releasing their albums to reach a wider audience. We felt there were not enough songs out there for children, and have written about 25 songs with different themes and topics, said Miss Michael. Tidy Up Rumba has struck a chord with parents and teachers, Miss Michael, 42, said. And she works at West Grove Primary School in Chase Road, Southgate, where she is the music coordinator. And she said, we've had comments about the Tidy Up Rumba from as far from Sweden and America, and people tell us it really works. She said that teachers are always trying to encourage children to clear up after a busy lesson. It's a bugbear for teachers. We wanted to write a silly song, make it fun, and have children enjoy tidying up without feeling it's a chore. It's about putting chairs on tables, the kind of things that as teachers we have to do. We've had a lot of people saying it really works with their children at home. The song is getting 3,000 to 4,000 hits a day, and the teachers hope it is helping to get children to tidy up. The two composers used to work at the same school, and Mr. Papakyriakou, 44, now teaches at St Michael's Primary in Brigadier Hill, Enfield. And in this song they tell children, I want this classroom to look fantastic.
A man from Brimsdown who stashed 4 guns in a house has been jailed for 19 years. Shane Hart, aged 27, of Glenlock Road, Brimsdown, was found guilty on 2 counts of possession of a handgun, 2 counts of possession of an automatic weapon, possession of bullets, 3 counts of possession of a firearm with intent to endanger, and possession with intent to supply cocaine at Wood Green Crown Court earlier this month. Officers from the Met Police's gun crime unit found 2 Walther handguns, an MAC-10 machine gun, a sawn-off shotgun, ammunition and drug packing machine when they searched a home in Hill Road, Muswell Hill on September 24th last year. They also found just over 100 grams of cocaine. Police hunted down Hart, who was known to be associated with the property. They found him in Enfield, and he was arrested. Phones and house keys were taken from the BMW he was travelling in. The keys were found to fit locks in the Hill Road house. A picture of the MAC-10 gun was found on Hart's smartphone. Detective Inspector James Newcomb from the Trident Gang Crime Command said this was a significant seizure of lethal and loaded weapons. Removing them from criminal hands has undoubtedly saved lives. Trident is committed to dealing effectively with gun crime in London, and I hope that this sentence reassures the public that the Met is committed to a robust response to serious crime of this nature. James King, aged 23, of the Ryde, Ponders End, was acquitted of the same offences on Thursday last week.
Cyclists have welcomed the latest Mini Holland plans for green lanes, which were unveiled last week. Scores of people turned up to Palmer's Green Library to see the designs for the programme, which will see transport links, roads and businesses transformed with £42 million of external investment. After seeing the plans, Enfield Cycling Campaign member Andrew Larson said, "The engineers have done a good job. The Bush Hill Junction in particular has cycles crossing in a separate phase to cars, a Dutch-style junction and the first of its kind in the UK." Better Streets for Enfield's Claire Rogers echoed Mr Larson's sentiments. She said, "I was impressed with the plans. The bike lanes should allow anyone to cycle safely in green lanes, including children, unthinkable at present. The lanes are wide enough for cargo bikes or adapted cycles for disabled cyclists. Some argue that less space for cars will cause congestion, but traffic modelling has disproved this, and the width should both discourage speeding and make crossing the road safer. Unfortunately, we were shocked by the attitude of some people at the exhibition. All the research shows cycle lanes either having no effect or benefiting business." What a shame to see this fear of change overcoming common sense and the chance of a better environment for our children. Daniel Anderson, Cabinet Member for Environment, said that the plans for Palmer's Green, which are being delivered through the Mayor of London's Mini Holland Fund, would enable Enfield Council to transform high streets and town centres and promote healthier, more active travel.
More than 300 men, women and children donned brightly painted T-shirts and head boppers to splash the streets with colour. The riot of colours paraded through Enfield town on Friday night, from the Civic Centre in Silver Street to Lancaster Road, before walking up past Forty Hall and then east onto Hertford Road and then curling back and ending up back at the Civic Centre. Every year, Nightingale Cancer Support Centre, based at the Lancaster Centre in Lancaster Road, organises a new variation of the Night Hike, which raises money for the charity while also entertaining the borough's residents. Lisa Barker, the fundraising manager for the charity, said it's always a very emotional event, with a lot of cancer survivors taking part along with friends and family, walking in remembrance of loved ones they have lost. Seeing the mighty crowd of walkers strutting down the street in such force shows a great camaraderie. Cancer affects so many of us in some way, and it is wonderful that people know they do not have to do this alone.
The new head of community policing in Enfield has praised the hard work of officers in the borough. Councillor Crystal von Younger, Cabinet Member for Public Health and Community Safety, met with the police constables this week and pledged to work with residents to stand up for the area against crime and antisocial behaviour, as well as getting more money from the government. She said, "I want to build on our successes in keeping residents safe by ensuring the Council and the Metropolitan Police work increasingly closely together. In partnership, we will work to make our streets safer, cut burglary rates, tackle gang-related crime, and expand our already excellent work in tackling domestic abuse and hate crime, and make residents feel safer than ever before."
A playground equipped for children with disabilities has been given a £150,000 boost, and a cricket club's changing rooms will get a makeover, thanks to a £50,000 grant, both from the London Marathon. The Marathon's Charitable Trust has awarded Enfield Council £150,000 to develop London's first Plan Inclusive Play Area, accredited playground in Albany Park, Enfield Wash. The money will be used to kit out the park in Bell Lane to provide children with disabilities and long-term health problems the same opportunities for movement, physical activity and play as able-bodied children. The London Marathon Charitable Trust was set up in 1981 and gives money to areas where its mass participation events, including the marathon itself, take place. This year, it has also given £50,000 to Botany Bay Cricket Club. The cash will go towards enlarging and refurbishing changing rooms at the club in East Lodge Lane, Enfield. Running clubs in Enfield, including Trent Park, help out during the annual 26.2-mile event, which attracts about 327,000 participants each year. Enfield runners are also keen to take part in the marathon. Sir Rodney Walker, the chairman of the London Marathon Charitable Trust, said it had a record £7.5 million. We are actively seeking high-quality applications from organisations that will get more people physically active. Since 1981, the Trust has handed out £62 million to more than 1,130 projects.
Campaigners aiming for a museum to be founded in a historic country house say they are not yet happy with developers' plans. Berkeley Homes have offered half the ground floor and a third of the basement of Trent Park House in Cockfosters for a museum commemorating its use in World War II as a key base of war operations and a prison for high-ranking Nazi officers. The remainder of the ground floor, basement and the rest of the house will be converted into flats. Councillor Jason Charalambous, who founded the museum campaign, said while it was a good start, the offer was unacceptable. He said, for a museum to succeed and thrive and achieve its full potential as a national attraction, it needs to be of sufficient scale and therefore include the entire ground floor and basement as a minimum. A cafe and gift shop are essential features of any museum, and these also need to be factored in together with sufficient exhibition space to tell the estate's extraordinary history. Nothing less than public access through the mansion's grand front entrance will do. We have come a long way since our campaign was launched just a year and a half ago, and we still have some way to go. However, we believe we are on track to secure a positive future for Trent Park that will honour the extraordinary role it played in our history and leave a legacy that will benefit the public for generations to come. In the words of Sir Winston Churchill, we believe we are marching towards better days. Councillor Charalambous said they would continue to negotiate with Berkeley and Enfield Council on the future of the museum and has called a public meeting to discuss the project. This will take place at Christ Church, Cockfosters, on Thursday, June the 16th, with speakers including the CEO of Bletchley Park, Ian Standen, World War II veteran and secret listener Fritz Lustig, and Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows, along with representatives from Berkeley Homes and the Council. Berkeley have said they intend to submit a planning application in the autumn. They have been contacted for further comment but have not responded.
The people of Enfield are being encouraged to register to vote in the upcoming EU referendum. The vote, which will take place on Thursday, June the 23rd, will ask people the question of whether the UK should remain a member of the European Union or leave it. In order to participate, residents must be registered, and the deadline for applying is Tuesday, June the 7th. You will be able to vote in person at your polling station on June the 23rd, while the deadline to apply for a postal vote is 5 p.m. on Wednesday, June the 8th. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Finance and Efficiency, Councillor Dino Lemonides, said they were hoping to match the 43.5% turnout for the Greater London Authority, GLA, elections earlier this month. You can register at www.gov.uk/register-to-vote, and if you need further details on the referendum and how to vote, visit www.aboutmyvote.co.uk.
Volunteers will begin clearing the way for new therapy gardens at Chase Farm Hospital next week. The volunteers will begin the process on Wednesday of transforming the gardens at the hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield, into a haven for stroke and dementia sufferers who will use the therapeutic practice of tending to plants as a way to treat their illnesses. Savita Taylor, the community fundraiser for the Chase Farm charity, told the Advertiser, "The gardens have been designed to support dementia and stroke rehabilitation patients and their families. They will provide a much-needed outdoor space to help stimulate the patients, aid recovery and provide a safe outdoor area. And she is calling on green-fingered residents to go along and help transform the gardens into tranquil spaces that will nurture patients' rehabilitation." She added that when the gardens are officially open for their new purpose, all the plants recovered will be sold off, with the proceeds going towards new plants more suited to the therapy gardens. Anyone interested in volunteering on that day or during the 3-month project can get in touch with Savita on 0208 375 2186. That's 0208 375 2186.
A charity is launching a holiday club for disabled children in Enfield. Sense, a national deaf-blind charity, will run a short break and Saturday club for more than 100 children in the borough, aged 8 and over, at the Hadley Centre in Barnet during the summer. Debbie Snooks, Community Service Manager at Sense, said, "We are in a unique position of having 2 neighbouring state-of-the-art, purpose-built centres which can offer young people a multitude of exciting and fun on-site activities, from hydrotherapy to rebound to arts and crafts and sensory play. There will be a taster session at 10 a.m. on June the 4th. For more information, email tracy.reid, R-E-I-D, at sense.org.uk, or you can call on 020 8449 0964.
Desert rat Stanley Middleton has celebrated his 107th birthday surrounded by family and friends. Mr. Middleton was an engineer and served with the 7th Armoured Division, repairing British Army's lorries and other military vehicles during World War II. After leaving the Army, Mr. Middleton worked for Enfield Council, driving steamrollers on the borough's roads. Until a year ago, he was still making his own bread and a weekly fruit cake, as well as tending his garden in Conway Gardens, Enfield. His niece, Janet Mills, who helped celebrate his birthday on Friday, attributed his longevity to his healthy eating and active lifestyle. Miss Mills of Graham Road, Enfield, said, "He's amazing. Until a year ago, he would go to Tesco's for his shopping and bake all his own bread. He was a really active man." Stanley was married to his wife May for 33 years. Mr. Middleton moved into Woodbury Manor Care Home in Clay Hill, North Enfield, 2 months ago following a fall and a bout of pneumonia. Joanne Jarvis, the manager of the home, described him as a true gentleman. She said, "He joined us on March the 21st, and he is a really lovely man, an absolute gentleman. And although he doesn't like to be the centre of attention, he loves a chat. I have never known anyone who has lived to be 107. It's really amazing. I'm not sure of the secret of his success, although he loves a bowl of porridge and a cup of tea every morning, so maybe it's that."
Answers are being demanded after court officials said they had no records of a 2-day hearing which happened in January. Fran Budd of Cattlegate Road, Cruise Hill, went to court against Warmadam Garden Centre over boundary fencing, claiming they had encroached onto her property, with the case being heard at the Royal Courts of Justice, RCJ, between January the 25th and 26th. At the time, the presiding justice, Judge Faber, decided to postpone a decision for 3 months in order to look over all the evidence in the case. However, when the court was contacted recently to ask if a decision had been made, they said there was no record of any trial and the matter had been resolved. Miss Budd said, "It is the phantom trial. We were told it never happened, which must mean everyone involved were on some pretty strong hallucinogenic drugs to have dreamt it all up. I have complained to everyone, to the Justice Secretary, to the courts, but haven't got anywhere. It's astonishing. I've never heard of anything like this before." In a letter from Kevin Morgan of Carbon Law Partners, who represented Miss Budd in the case, it was revealed that the RCJ had claimed the matter had been settled out of court in December 2015 and had no notes on the 2-day hearing. It said, "Some disturbing news from the court. We could not get them to accept that the trial did go ahead and that we are waiting for judgment. We agreed that we would both let our barristers know, as often they or their clerks who are based in London will have personal contacts at the court who can make some sense of this, or even the judge. Obviously, the court's position is outrageous, and if you want to contact them, then please go ahead. It may even be that a call from a disgruntled party might stir them into some action, as clearly they are not accepting the solicitor's position." Barristers from both Miss Budd and Warmadam have written a letter to Judge Faber, seen by the Enfield Independent, which indicates not only did the trial take place, but the judge had visited the site in dispute, Miss Budd's back garden. According to Miss Budd, as of yet there is no current notice of when the judgment will take place. The RCJ have been contacted for comment.
Tory MP David Burrows is urging his constituents to back a campaign to boost the number of stem cell and bone marrow donors. Mr Burrows, the MP for Enfield Southgate, made the plea after attending a celebrity-backed event at the Houses of Parliament hosted by the Team Margot charity. Team Margot was created in memory of Margot Martini, an inspirational toddler with a rare and aggressive form of leukemia, who sparked a worldwide campaign to find more stem cell donors following her death in 2014, aged 2. Her family is campaigning in her name to encourage more people to sign up to the UK Stem Cell Register. And Mr Burrows, who is on the Bone Marrow Register himself, said, "This is a campaign that I feel very strongly about, and one that I wholeheartedly support. We urgently need to boost the numbers of donors on the UK Stem Cell and Bone Marrow Register, and I urge as many of my constituents in Enfield Southgate to sign up to the register." The reception held in Parliament attracted more than 150 people, including Olympic decathlon great Daley Thompson and former Crime Watch host Nick Ross.
Usually it's a big crowd puller, but one of the world's most famous steam locomotives slipped almost unnoticed through Enfield on Friday night. The Flying Scotsman, making its first journey on a line through the borough since a £4 million restoration, sped through Enfield Chase Station on its way to King's Cross from York just after 9 p.m. Catching a rare glimpse of the special train normally attracts hundreds of enthusiasts and members of the public, but the station platform was deserted, apart from Enfield resident and self-confessed steam train nut Dave Wadley, along with a fellow enthusiast. The 70-year-old, who lives in Graham Road, Enfield, filmed the Flying Scotsman's brief appearance for the online YouTube channel he runs, which features clips of steam trains. The intention had been for her to make the trip on the Thursday, but the journey had to be rescheduled after she developed a mechanical fault, he explained. She had to make the run with a diesel engine and not, as was originally planned, pulling coaches on a daytime chartered passenger trip, he added. Dave found out about the rescheduled run from a secret train enthusiast's website. It's not really secret, but Network Rail doesn't want it widely publicised after people trespassed onto the track trying to catch sight of her on other outings, so I can't share it with anyone, he added. The former factory manager had a passion for steam trains since he was a small boy, describing himself as a bit of an anorak. Friday's sighting of the Flying Scotsman wasn't his first, having glimpsed it twice near Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire and Retford in Nottinghamshire, since it started running again in February, allowing its decade-long restoration by the National Railway Museum. As the first steam train to break the 100-mile-per-hour barrier in 1934 and a marvel of engineering, she is an icon of the steam age, added Dave. You can see his footage of the Flying Scotsman steaming through Enfield Chase Station at www.youtube.com/user/TheWesternExplorer feature =MHEE.
Testing of primary school pupils cannot measure how unique and special each child is, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Education said this week. While acknowledging that the national curriculum, SATs tests, play a crucial role in improving educational standards, Aifa Orhan said there were many important things they could not measure. In a special message aimed at hundreds of Year 6, 10 and 11-year-olds who sat their Key Stage 2 SATs last week, she praised them for the hard work they had put in. But Ms. Orhan said children often felt under pressure and that while teachers did their utmost to help them deal with it, it was important for young people to remember that they might have other abilities, talents and skills they may possess which cannot be measured. They don't tell you if you're good at music or sport, whether you are a nice and kind person or whether you have good social skills and are a good friend, all things we encourage in our schools and which we feel are at least as important as how well you do in your SATs, she said. So remember, the SATs scores will tell you something, but they will not tell you everything, as there are no tests that can measure all the great things you can do. Your teachers and I are incredibly proud of how hard you have worked this year, and all we ask now is that you continue to believe in yourself and strive to achieve all the brilliant things you want to in life.
The Enfield Society has put out an appeal for the loan of a miniature-scale model of the type architects use. The Society, which works to preserve and protect the borough's historic treasures and cherished heritage, is celebrating its 80th birthday. and to mark the milestone, a free exhibition highlighting its achievements, called the Enfield Society 80 Years of Action, opened at the Dugdale Centre in London Road, Enfield Town, today, Wednesday, and runs until January. The exhibition is being staged in conjunction with Enfield Council's museum service. The Dugdale's Museum Gallery will exhibit artefacts, photographs and archive material, but what the Society is desperately hoping to acquire for its display on architecture and planning is a genuine detailed architect's model. "We need it to enhance the display," said Society spokesman Bob Fowler. "If there is an architectural practice that can be of assistance, or there is somebody out there who has an unwanted one gathering dust in the loft or a cupboard, we would much appreciate a loan of it. Anyone who can help should contact 0208 363 5732 or 07860 128 065.
A mother, an actress, has turned inventor to come up with a new kind of snowsuit and needs your help. Tara Byrne, a married mother of 2 from Winchmore Hill, came up with the idea for a coat for her 2-year-old son after learning it is unsafe for children to wear large jackets in car seats. Her Huggle Me Close snowsuit uses a breathable mesh to create a guide for the proper positioning and prevention of overly loose straps. Miss Byrne has patented her idea, made contact with manufacturers and begun a Kickstarter fund with a target of £17,500 to be raised by June the 11th. She said, "I looked and nothing like this exists. Nothing is sold anywhere. For your child to be safe in their seat, you need to take their coat off and cover them in a blanket. A pain if it is cold and wet. And I did some sketches of my own. It went from there. And I now have a prototype with Turkish manufacturers. I bought an old snowsuit from a charity shop, cut it up and reworked it. It looked terrible, but it works in theory. I couldn't get into sell into shops, and I was told I shouldn't sell anything without a patent, so I went there, and I've just got to this stage almost by accident. All of a sudden, I've gone from being an actress and a mum to being a kidswear manufacturer, and I have no idea where to start. But now I'm here, I'm very excited. Things were going well for Huggle Me Close when it passed a crash test 6 weeks ago. But now Mrs. Byrne has hit a brick wall of her own, trying to sell the snowsuit in summer. She said, "I'm trying to raise money through Kickstarter and have had no negative feedback, but it's like trying to sell sun cream in January. People have to buy it now, so it can be made for them to be delivered. But it's hard to persuade people of that, and I'm still confident it can work. So if you're interested, visit www.kickstarter.com/projects/Huggle Me Close.
A counsellor is gearing up for a ride through the night to help the fight against cancer. Vicky Pite of Weardale Gardens, Enfield, has been a Labour councillor for Chase Ward since 2014. Not content with the challenge of working as a councillor, Mrs. Pite, aged 66, is now embarking on a 104-kilometre ride from Windsor to Westminster along the River Thames at night. I imagine that's alongside. She and fellow councillor Claire Stewart, who represents Southgate Green, will be pedalling through the night on Saturday in a bid to raise money to combat women's cancers. She told the Advertiser, "I wanted to raise money for cancer charities, and because I am a woman of a certain age, these things really resonated with me. Also, it has been a long time since I did a challenge like this. I used to ride all the time. I rode to work when I worked in Barnet. But now the roads are so busy and it can be quite scary for a cyclist going out on the road, so I train in a gym." Mrs. Pite said, that realising how intimidating it can be for a cyclist to share a road with heavy goods vehicles, cars and buses has made her determined to support the Cycle Enfield scheme. It is something I feel really strongly about, she added. There are a raft of residents like me. In a sense, I'm a test for the plans. If the cycle lanes can get somebody like me cycling, they will have been a success. Mrs. Pite has a Just Giving page, and donations to her cause can be made via www.justgiving.com/Vicky, VICKI -Pite, PITE.
Enfield Town have completed the signing of central defender Curtis Ujar for next season. Ujar joins the club from Cheshire United, where he made his debut in August 2015. The 27-year-old has previously played for St Albans City, Maidenhead United, Bishop Stortford, Boreham Wood and Hayes and Yeading United. Ujar made 48 competitive appearances for the Generals last season, scoring half a dozen goals, including the opener in the FA Cup tie against the Towners in October. Manager Bradley Quinton told the club website, "I am very pleased to secure the services of Curtis for the coming season. He has had the experience of gaining promotion from the Ryman Premier Division into the Conference South with Boreham Wood in 2009-10, and it is that sort of experience, coupled with his outstanding leadership qualities, that makes him such a great signing for us. I'm looking forward to working with him in the coming season." Quinton will hope Ujar's arrival will strengthen the squad's options as they look to challenge for a place in the Ryman Premier Division playoffs next season. The Towners have also confirmed a pre-season game at home to QPR under-21s on Saturday, July the 23rd. Enfield's game will come just one day after hosting a Brighton 11 in their opening friendly match of the summer. Quinton's side also head to Ware on Thursday, July the 28th, before heading to Skelmersdale 2 days later. Their final friendly will be a trip to Haringey Borough on Tuesday, August the 9th.
We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So, from the team of Sonia, Jenny, Roz and Alan, and Ian on the controls, ably assisted by new recruit Tracy, it's
Goodbye.